Chapter 5. There was only one thing worse than the nightmares. The nightmares plus a hangover. When the phone kicked Colonel Alexandra Kozlowski out of sleep at 0600 hours in the morning, she was experiencing both. "Yeah," she said, fumbling with the vidphone control. She was covered in a snarl of sheets. She was still dressed in the civvies from last night. From what? For where? Her pounding brain came up empty. First things first. "Who is this?" she demanded. "Colonel." Unfamiliar face. "That's right." Inventory. All her limbs seemed intact and still attached. No empty bottle of whiskey on the counter. Even better, no naked body beside her. That limited the possible damage of last night. Shreds of memory and the dinner tray in front of the vid told the story. Too much video, too much vino. She hadn't raised hell outside. She'd just raised it inside. Much more discreet. Far more destructive. "Colonel, this is Burroughs. General Delmore Burroughs." She sat up, ran a hand through her hair. "I'm sorry to bother you this early in the morning, but we've got an important meeting today in Washington. I'm going to have to ask that you get on a jump skip." "Yes, sir." Civility and duty won over surliness. Why the hell had she stayed in this stinking profession anyway? Why was she taking this bullshit? "Good. There will be a plane ready for you at 800 hours. The meeting is scheduled for 1100 hours. Sharp." "Yes, sir." She struggled for the proper words. "Begging your pardon, sir, but could I inquire about the nature of this meeting?" "I'm afraid not, Colonel. Top secret, priority 1. You'll know soon enough." "Thank you, sir." "And Colonel, wear your dress uniform. Wear your medals and some kick-ass boots." "Yes, sir." She disconnected. Well, it wasn't any problem getting to the transport. She was living on base at the moment. All she had to do was call up her adjutant and get him to wheel her all of the 2 miles to the airfield. The trouble was going to be getting out of bed. "Damn it," she thought, groaning. "I wait around for months for something important to happen, and it happens on my day off, hours after I've had a snootful." The karmic balances of the universe were just getting far too hair-trigger for Alex Kozlowski's taste. The stupid Eastern theories were immediately banished for the colder, more mechanistic, and less vengeful rules of Western science. You drink too much, you get sick. Moreover, if you're a career officer, you took it all like a good soldier. Groaning, she heaved her compact, muscular body out of bed, wishing she'd been working out more lately. Cripes, she felt like a pair of hips with a torso and limbs tacked on as an afterthought. She peeled off her clothes, then walked. No, she admonished, more like waddled, to the shower stall, avoiding the mirror. She turned on the water, hard and hot, held her breath, and jumped in. The pounding heat against her neck and shoulders immediately improved things. Suddenly, she had an afterthought head, too. It wasn't like she was an alkie or anything. She'd go for weeks with just a glass of wine or a shot of bourbon and beer with the gang now and then. Every once in a while, though, When she started thinking about Peter too much, she found herself motoring for a jug of wine, gallon size, and just going apeshit. Peter Michaels. Lieutenant Peter Michaels. There had been men since him, just as there had been men before him. Hell, soldiers in foxholes and all that stuff. Nothing like sex to ease the tension. But there had never been anyone like Peter again. No one she cared about. No one she could love. Had it been love with Michaels? Hard to say. She just knew that she didn't have much in the way of tender emotions anymore. They had gotten eaten up with that alien acid. All that was left was guilt and nightmare, and a large sturdy pile of grit that was the essential stuff of Alexandra Kozlowski. The grit, the iron, the hard stuff. That was why she was a colonel now. After that nasty business with the Hollywood nest, she transferred to the Marines. They took her in a shot. She found herself immersed in space and the vessels that traversed it. It was a way to get her brain out of the acid. She was a top student, and her rank just increased and increased. She was on Camp Kennedy base now, doing some prelims in a possible space cruise, but it looked as though her superiors had something different in mind for her, which was hunky-dory. Busy. That was what she needed. To be busy. To immerse herself in work. When she worked hard, she slept hard. When she slept hard, she didn't have nightmares. When she didn't have nightmares, she didn't see Peter's dissolving face again. Damn it, just shut up, she told herself, pounding the tile of the shower stall, letting the hot water sluice down her face. Just shut up. It wasn't your fault. Why are you torturing yourself? It was Peter who'd been getting weird, who had to show his independence. If he hadn't demanded to go up to that bulb, if he had listened to her, he might still be alive. After his death, they'd cleaned the nest out. It was as though all her men had become an extension of her need for revenge. There wasn't much alien jelly. They'd taken the piddling amount out. Not worth the bother, certainly. But no alien bodies, no DNA samples. They slagged all that. It was like a dementia. It was like nothing that Alex had ever experienced before. If the bugs had half a brain between them, they would have run, because there'd seldom been a killing machine like her and her men, taking revenge for that sneaky little alien trap. Somehow, they'd all made it through alive, which was a wonder. They'd used part of their extra leave for a wake for Peter Michaels. It should have been enough for her. It really should have. But it didn't bring Peter back. The thing about it was, they'd both known that something like that could happen. They'd promised each other that if it did, they'd get on with their lives, not cling to memories and hope. But it had happened, and now Alex had to live with that, and somehow there was always other kinds of pain she'd rather have. She dried herself off. She pulled herself together. She made herself some coffee. Then she called her adjutant to pick her up. She found her good uniform. She put on her pants, one leg at a time as usual. She combed her hair and she had another cup of coffee. The pounding in her head had subsided, but she still felt weak and weary. She looked at the clock. 5 more minutes to pick-up time. She looked at her hands. They were trembling. Damn, damn and double damn. What was happening to her? She wasn't nervous, yet she couldn't function. She'd never been like this after drinking. She took a deep breath, but it didn't calm her. She sighed. Then, wearily, she went to her medicine cabinet. She took out one of the bottles there, opened it, and tapped a pill into her hand. She took it with a gulp of coffee and almost immediately began to feel better. Damn this stuff, she thought. Damn it to hell. She tucked the bottle of fire into her carry bag and put her face into her hands. Daniel Grant smiled. He felt the room lighting up around him from the effects of that wonderful smile, and he revelled in its power. Gentlemen, all I ask are for 3 things. He turned the smile wattage up just a tad higher. Guns, grunts, and a gondola. Send my team of specialists and scientists on a little voyage, and I promise to bring back happiness and satisfaction for us all. The meeting place was a high-level war room, streamlined angles, all polished wood and chrome and underlit attitude. It smelled of aftershave and leather, and was about 5 degrees cooler than it had to be. Architecture and technology contrived to create a crib of spare power, with acoustics that made the most of monosyllabic speeches. There was enough brass in the room to supply knuckles for an army of hoodlums. They sat around a black oval table, bracketed by uniform high-backed black chairs, still and forbidding as monuments in a nighttime cemetery. To the alien homeworld, for God's sake, said Admiral Niles. The old man moved forward in his chair. He was a good-looking man with a shock of grey hair and a slash of a moustache below an aquiline nose. His face was lined with weariness, but his eyes were sharp as a hawk's. Not homeworld, sir. A supernumerary corrected. Hive world. The source of all the aliens that have been encountered in this quadrant of the galaxy from all signs. The source of the Queen Mother that was brought to Earth. Not of the race, tendered another expert. The extent of the spread of the Xenos had not yet been fully determined. So far, they had been found only on isolated planets. All the clues pointed back to this so-called hive world. The hive world had been the source of the alien-Earth war. However, naturally, there was great concern. Any newly discovered planet had the potential of being infected, and no one knew if any eggs had been illegally exported from Earth. Admiral Niles grunted. Whatever. This place must be hell. I know that the Xenos are comparatively well contained here on Earth. He looked at Grant, and it felt like those coal black eyes were boring into him. In some ways, perhaps, even farmed. But on their own turf, surely. Grant snapped his fingers. The AV portion of this morning's DC festivities. A holotank eased down into its moorings and lights flickered. 3D film flashed of soldiers and mercenaries in the latest get-up, carrying the most modern weapons, slamming through the ranks of an alien nest. He would have enjoyed splicing in some Marshal John Philip Sousa, but his PR people had talked him out of it. Not bad, huh? And lots of these folks are yours. Just crack teams, crack. And I even understand you've got a real handle on the alien blood in battle problem. Wonderful. Grant was all enthusiasm. I know those films, said the Admiral. They're from the North Carolina campaign, earlier this year. A piece of cake, true, but we're talking about a place where aliens have total sway. Not necessarily, sir. An expert's nasal voice twanged. The hive world may also be inhabited by the alien homeworld original predators, or corollary predators. There's got to be a similar ecology to some extent for them to have developed there the way they have. So you're saying an expedition there is feasible and not overly risky, said the Admiral, settling back in his seat. Any environment containing these critters is going to have an element of risk, sir, said Grant. But then I know that your people can handle it, and the rewards would be spectacular. He leaned forward confidently. I mean, it was General Burroughs here who approached me on the subject, and I found it to be not only a fascinating concept, but a mutually rewarding alliance. An expedition into the adventure of free enterprise and the onward evolution of the American soldier. General Burroughs, would you care to elaborate? The black general glared at Grant through slitted eyes. The Admiral has been thoroughly briefed on the benefits of the royal jelly you can supply. The man was playing poker here, and that was okay, because Daniel Grant appreciated a good negotiator. It brought out the best in him. Yes, but before me I see intelligent eyes, questioning eyes. Grant stood and gestured outward at the assemblage of frowning brass. And as I am the pitchman here and you've granted me time, please allow me to properly present my pitch. Again, a snap of fingers. The moving pictures flickered into a different round. The Baghdad Goodwill Games, Oriander's world record, and his unfortunate demise. Ratty videos of the horrible slaughter at Quantico. He heard the sharp intake of breath. I'm sure you're aware of these tragedies and others like them that have caused a huge number of lawsuits to be levelled at my company, Grant said gravely, deep into presentation mode. Then, soldiers, looking noticeably calmer, performing tasks and exercises with sharp precision and sharp eyes. Here we have a group of men who have just taken small doses of regular Xeno-Zip, which I shall call fire from now on. This, as I hope you know, is derived from normal alien royal jelly. My company, Neopharm, has patented the proper methodology of transforming normal alien royal jelly utilizing molecules of Queen Mother royal jelly so that tiny doses will perk up a normal human's day and enhance any soldier's performance. A little costly, perhaps, but worth it. However, as you are no doubt aware, the supply of normal royal jelly has been dwindling. We have synthesized the jelly, with mixed results. However, we need not go into that right now. What is significant is that a batch of the synthesized jelly Xenozip was accidentally spiked with extra Queen Mother royal jelly. In a marked percentage of those who ingested it, the result was quite incredible. Properly modulated, the results of this new drug will create nothing less than a super soldier. Another picture appeared on the screen. A gladiator soldier hammering away at robots with sword and machine gun, but under control. A berserker without a doubt, but with orders and a plan. The good general here is already at work experimenting with this new kind of jelly. However, our supplies of Queen Mother jelly are reaching depletion. And I may also add, we're still not exactly well stocked in regular royal jelly either, which is our bread and butter, far preferable to us than our synthesized sort. He waved away the audio visuals and motioned for normal light. He leaned forward emphatically on the table. It's very simple. My company needs more regular royal jelly as well as QM royal jelly, and a way to get a regular supply of both. Your company, I mean your armed forces, already staggering under heavy opposition and funding cuts, need to make maximum use of every soldier in conflict. I have the scientists and the talent. You've got the intergalactic vessels, pilots, and soldiers. My scientists predict the certain existence of what we both need on the hive world. He smiled. He held his hands up in an eloquent shrugging gesture. So, some of my kiddies go, some of your kiddies go. We get what we want. We make a little pact. You help me, I help you. You scratch my back, I save your butt. Pardon me, Mr. Grant, chided the Admiral, shaking his head a moment as though to clear it. Just a moment. I thought it was your company that was inundated with civil suits. We've got a few legal problems, sure. So sue us. Grant chuckled. Besides, I'm sure a few military words in the Attorney General's ear will go a long way towards helping the company you'll be climbing into bed with. Mr. Grant, this is a lawful assembly, said the General, but with a hint of irony to his deep tones. Absolutely, without a doubt, unquestionably. But my association with a powerful legal force isn't going to do my legal standing any harm. And by the time people understand why we're doing what we're doing, by the time they see the benefits of our research, they will surely not be so vehement in our pursuit. Again, a shrug. But only time will tell. In the meantime, no skin off your noses, eh? He could tell his spiel was getting to them. Everyone loved a rascal, especially when what he was coming up with could do big time good. He might as well get out the victory cigar in his vest pocket and start smoking it. A new voice sounded from the assemblage. Pardon me, Mr. Grant, but are you planning on accompanying this proposed mission? Grant blinked. Hell no! He looked over at the originator of the suggestion. A woman, short hair, nice chin, scars. She would have been pretty if she wore makeup. Now she was merely handsome. I've got an important business to run here. The woman leaned forward, clasping her hands together. Mr. Grant, with all due respect, have you ever put on a suit and gone into a hive? Well, no. But what difference does that make? He looked over at the General as though for help. The black man's eyes twinkled with amusement. Let's see how you wriggle off this hook, those eyes said. We're apparently talking about a whole world filled with bugs, Mr. Grant. Glib as your words may be, this assignment would not be simple. In fact, I'm willing to bet that stochastic prophecy would predict losses, said the woman. Not the ones projected by our figures, Grant said. Who the hell was this woman? What was she trying to do? Scuttle his boat? The woman swiveled her head back and forth, catching each of the assembly eye to eye for just an instant of seriousness. Let me tell you all. I have been in alien hives. Miracle weapons or no miracle weapons, there will be losses. Are you willing to be responsible for that? Said the woman intensely, teeth gritted as though she were in some kind of pain. Some of the upper brass began to hem and haw. This was entering touchy territory. "Ah, God damn it," said Grant. "Give us a break. Are we not at war? Is this not directly and indirectly a mission against the enemy? Casualties are always a possibility, but who's to say that they're a certainty?" He stared at the woman defiantly. Her eyes were ice. She wasn't giving an inch. "I just wanted to ask a question, Mr. Grant, and state a fact that you seem to be trying to avoid. That's all." The lips curled into a private smile. "As for me, the idea of going to this hive world and killing bugs and stealing their live stuff is rather appealing." Christ almighty, who was this bitch? The general and the admiral leaned over and privately conferred. The admiral looked over to his other officers and met merely nods and encouraging eyes. "Well, Mr. Grant," said the admiral, "it seems as though your intriguing proposal has made the first hurdle. I believe we can work something out." Grant could not suppress an ear-to-ear grin. His muscles unknotted. "Glad to hear it, Admiral. Glad to hear it." He put out an impulsive hand, pumped away at the plump paw he'd grabbed. He nodded at the others. "My companies have had a long and prosperous liaison with you fine folks in uniform. I'm glad it's taking off for other worlds." There were a few embarrassed coughs, and a couple of members of the meeting made excuses and scurried off into labyrinthine Washington hallways. Grant just mentally shrugged it off. He was used to stepping on boot toes in this business, almost reveled in it. He'd never much liked military people and secretly resented having to work so much with them, particularly in harvesting the precious royal jelly, far preferring to encourage the mercenaries in the business. Money was something that Daniel Grant could understand when it was the bottom line. When you got into the halls of politics, sex, personality, and power, things got a whole lot murkier. "Now then," said the Admiral, "I believe we have the necessary deep space tactical vessel at our disposal. It will take some time to prepare it for this special journey. And of course we'll want a staff other than the people that Mr. Grant is supplying." Grant sat back down. "Of course, you'll get me the best men for the job." "Naturally, Mr. Grant, naturally. We have some fine veterans and pilots who would be perfect," the Admiral said. "What the expedition needs most is a commanding officer with the right feel, both for leading troops and dealing with the quite unpredictable alien bugs." "That's your call," said Grant. I'll leave that one totally up to you." The general and admiral conferred for a moment in whispers, and then the general spoke. "We anticipated the need for such a commander, Mr. Grant. The youngest holder of the Congressional Medal of Honor, specifically for a pivotal role in the final cleaning up of the aliens in North America, and with special training for further work in space, dealing with infestations on other planets and colonies." "Sounds good to me. When do I get to meet the man?" said Grant. The general turned to the small, coal-eyed woman. "You've already met. The question is, will the colonel agree to such an assignment?" The intense, scarred young woman leaned over, showing small, pearly white teeth in a smile. "I'd relish such an assignment, sir. Thank you." It was the general's turn to smile. "Excellent. I cannot commend your expedition into better hands, Mr. Grant. May I formally introduce you to Colonel Alexandra Kozlowski, your commanding officer." Grant's jaw dropped. He was glad he hadn't lit up a cigar. It would have fallen right onto his expensive Italian suit, spilled embarrassing ashes all over the place. He recovered quickly, converted his surprise into a laugh. "Well, well, well, how marvelous. And I thought you were the one who hated the bugs." "I do," said Colonel Kozlowski. "I want to see every last one of them either cindered or perhaps even harmless, if that's possible. That's why I'm in this business, Mr. Grant. That's why I'm here today." She leaned forward and tapped the table. "Make no mistake, though. I don't believe in the devil, Mr. Grant. If there was a devil, I doubt if even he would be evil enough to invent these bugs. This is not going to be a field trip to an ant farm. Tell your people that." Those smouldering eyes again. There was something else in those eyes, something that looked at him in a peculiar way that bothered Grant, bothered him intensely. He shrugged it off, turned to the men in charge. "Well, seems like a fine choice to me. I like a woman with intestinal fortitude." He pulled out a handful of cigars from his breast pocket. "A celebration seems to be called for. Anybody care to join me?" He flashed a handful. The general took one. The admiral accepted one. "Me," said Colonel Kozlowski, holding out a hand. Grant had one passed down. He watched as the petite but hard-looking woman accepted the cigar, examined it, sniffed it, then pocketed it. "You're not going to smoke with us?" Daniel Grant said, slightly miffed but playful nonetheless. "Mr. Grant," said Colonel Alex Kozlowski, "celebration is hardly in order yet. I'll smoke it when the mission is over and my rear is seated safe and sound back in this chair for a debriefing." The woman asked for and obtained permission to leave from her superiors. "Well, what do you think of our choice for your commander?" said the general, an eyebrow raised. Grant let out a gust of smoke. "I'd say I feel damn sorry for those hive world bugs.